So this is generally not my role, but it will be tonight. So just as an explanation, yes, I'm from North Africa, from Libya, left there in 1967 as a result of the Six-Day War and all that stuff. So it is said that the long journey from Egypt to the Promised Land, we were all there. With that in mind, perhaps an introduction to our esteemed guest tonight is not necessary. But just in case some of you were distracted with multitasking and Facebook during the journey from Egypt to the Promised Land, I will say a few words. Dr. Mordechai Kedar is a retired lieutenant colonel with the IDF intelligence, a lecturer at Ilan University, the author of Assad in Search of Legitimacy, Message of Rhetoric in the Syrian Press under Hafez and Bashar. Also is the Israeli Arab strategist at the Begin Sadat Center of Strategic Studies. With a PhD in Arab literature and fluency of the Arab language, Dr. Kedar has a perspective very few can achieve. While the easiest decision was that of inviting Dr. Kedar to speak to us, the choosing from the long list of specific topics of interest to us here at Rock for Israel, and I imagine to you, was not so easy. Because Rock for Israel, as some of you may not be familiar with, since I happily see some new faces, is an independent, multi-religious, non-for-profit, educational charity that supports the State of Israel in its quest for peace and security as the homeland of the Jewish people. Our decision was to ask Dr. Kedar to speak on the social and political sources of tension in the Middle East, with the hope that we all will learn more than what we came here with, and that it might inspire us all to learn more. So, old and new friends, with the utmost respect and pleasure, I present to you Dr. Mordechai Kedar.
First of all, Lucky and Maria Nahum, thank you very much for inviting me here and hosting me. Of course, I want also to thank Tim Altier, who is the head of Rock for Israel, and Samuel, who just went out, Mr. Asher. Sam Asher, of course, with whom I'm corresponding for years already about coming here. Of course, Nazareth College and Dr. Muhammad Shafi. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming and taking part this evening. Professors usually speak in segments of an hour and a half, and then they open the floor for another an hour and a half. My limit is 5:45 a.m., my flight to New York City. Until then, I'm yours. for as long, I mean it, for as long as you guys want. So just feel free to ask any question, and I'll try to address everything. I'm here to help people understand. The problem is, first of all, to understand the Middle East, political and social issues, is because people on this continent usually think like Americans, because they live in America. And in America, the name of the game is tolerance. You leave the other to be whatever he likes to be. You mind your own business. This is a very important rule of behavior in this continent, because this continent actually, or the people, are a gathering of people who came from all over the world. Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, Eastern Asia, wherever, just name a place in the world, you find here people. Okay, and if they were not tolerant to each other and leave each other alone, this country would be a mayhem, and it is not. It is heaven only because people mind their own business and they leave the other alone. And this is something which is very important, because this rule is the culture, or I would say the cornerstone of the culture of this continent. It is not necessarily the basis of behavior in other parts of the world. And to think that everyone, everywhere in the world should leave the others alone only because it works here, it is just like to try to fix your Chevrolet in a garage of Harley Davidson only because they have motor. The fact that there is motor in both in Harley Davidson and Chevrolet doesn't mean that the culture is the same culture. And here I'm talking about culture. Second thing, which we all have to bear in mind, is the society in this country was built by individuals who came as individuals from wherever they came in order to forge a new nation, the American nation, which everybody will share the American dream of life, of liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for everyone. In most, I would say, if not as individuals, people came as nuclear families, a man, his wife, and their children. This is the units, either individuals or nuclear families who came to this country, and they lived together. The one who speaks Spanish with the one who speaks Russian, the one who speaks Czech, and the one who speaks another African language, whatever, and they lived together in the same compound, and they worked together in the same workplace, and they went to the supermarket in the public sphere together, and they shared everything in the army if they went to serve in the army. So this is how this nation actually became what it is, by combination of people who actually came to here in order to become Americans and to live, and if not the first generation, the second generation, to live the culture of the homelands in the homelands, and together to forge together a new American culture. This is what happened here, and this is a story of success because it worked to large part. Okay, I know that there are some enclaves of different cultures like Brooklyn or like, and you know exactly what I mean, or let's say New Orleans or Ferguson. Okay, we know. Okay, but the melting pot worked very well in most cases. And this is why this country became the most powerful in economy, in army power, only because the melting pot did its job. Maybe not perfectly, but definitely you can talk about America as a story of success, of building a new society by individuals who came from all over the world and left the different cultures there in order to have one culture, more or less, in this continent. However, when we talk about the Middle East, we talk about a totally different environment, totally different culture. For example, by the way, this is my family. And thank you. And when you talk about the Middle East, usually, we see this map. And this is the Atlantic. America is here. And then New York is upstate, is there, you know. And this is the Atlantic where I'm standing. And these are more or less the countries of the Middle East, which we are familiar with from the news. And everyone has its own color, implying that everyone has one nation, one people, one group. The Egyptians in Egypt, and the Libyans in Libya, and Algerians in Algeria, Tunisian, and so forth. And they are different from each other. They have different maybe languages, or maybe different culture, different everything. This is what this picture implies. The reality is as far as could be from this picture, because the real map of the Middle East is totally different. This is this. This is actually the same area, how it is viewed from the space. But this is a real picture. And you can see this is Morocco, this is Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, the Emirates, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel is here. This is Sinai. Okay, you can see immediately that this is a one big giant desert. Actually, this is the biggest desert in the whole world, the Sahara Desert, which also includes Egypt, and it also includes Saudi Arabia, because the Red Sea, which is here, does not create changes of climate on its shores. The desert comes all the way to the water and continues from the water to the east. So you actually can speak about one big desert, starts on the seashore of the Atlantic in the west, all the way to the Persian Gulf, and maybe even a little bit beyond. One big desert, as they say in Arabic, min al-muhit ila al-khalij, from the ocean to the Gulf, which is one big desert. The only fertile parts of this desert are the seashore of Algeria, which gets some rain from European weather, storms, or things like this. You can talk about the Nile Valley, which gets the water from Ethiopia, from rains which fall on Ethiopia, and go to the north along the Nile, because you know what? You
can go without.
It's the Nile which has the rains from Ethiopia coming along the Nile River to the sea, but the water doesn't come from the Middle East, it comes from Africa. And the Fertile Crescent, which is the Israel, Lebanon, Western Syria, and the two rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, in Iraq, which is what we call the Fertile Crescent, which, of course, in here we have rain, but Euphrates and the Tigris are two rivers in Syria and Iraq, which get the water from Turkey, from rains which fall on Turkey. So the Middle East is dry by definition because it's a desert, and the little water which we have in the Nile and these two rivers the water come from other parts of the world. So this is more or less, I would say, the given of the Middle East, and this thing is already thousands of years, if not millennia of years. Now, in the desert, if you want to live, you cannot live like this. You must live near a source of water. Otherwise, you are dead within hours, because you have to drink. And you have to find a spring, or dig a well, or a ditch, or something which will give you water. And you have to defend the source of water, because water is scarce in the desert. Mother Earth doesn't give it very scarcely. And there are other people who would like to have the water. So you have to defend your source of water. Otherwise, you will be dead. And in order to defend the source of water, you have to be strong. You cannot live by yourself, because the individual is weak, while the group is stronger. And the strongest group is the family, the father and the sons. And after a generation, it's the cousins. And after another generation, it's the second cousins. And the third cousins. And the fourth cousins. What do we get? A tribe, a clan, extended family. The name doesn't make a difference. The essence is that the cornerstone of society in the Middle East is not the individual, but it's the family, the extended family. You can call it a clan or a tribe. And this is actually a necessity which forces people to live in such frameworks in order to survive in such an environment, because it is, as far as could be, from upstate New York, when you take a 10-mile journey, how many rivers do you cross? Okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is not the situation in this part of the world. So, because of the desert, you must live as a group, consolidated, armed to its teeth, in order to deter other groups which might want your water because their source of water was exhausted recently because they are too big of a group. So in the Middle East, I would say there is a constant struggle for the water. I'm talking about thousands of years ago. And actually, these struggles are echoed in the book of Genesis, already there when the stories about Isaac, who was digging wells, and the others who live in this area will always want to chase him out from those wells. Okay, these struggles over water are echoed in the book of Genesis, definitely. So living in a group like a tribe is a necessity, and a tribe has its rules and laws. For example, loyalty. Loyalty to the tribe is something which is intolerable if you leave it. And the punishment for somebody who betrays the tribe or the clan or the family is what they call in Arabic tashmis. Tashmis is to throw you to the shams, to the sun, means out from and the sun will take care of you. Within few hours you'll be dead. You don't have to kill him. Just chase him out to the desert, and the shams, means the sun, will settle the account with the man. Okay, this is a punishment for somebody who betrayed the family. The rules of the tribe are much more important than any other rule, including the modern states which came recently, or even the religious rules of, let's say, Islam, which is the biggest religion in the Middle East. For example, one of the rules of living as a tribe is blood revenge. If they killed one of us, we will kill one of them in order to keep the balance between the two groups, or the two families, or the two clans. And preferably we'll kill the killer. But what if he ran away, or we don't know who killed our men? We will kill one of them anyway. One of the khams, one of the descendants of the grandfather's father of the killer. So just imagine how many males, are potential victim to the blood revenge. The descendants of 5 generations above. Okay? It could be thousands of people. Okay? We'll catch a 2-year-old toddler and we'll kill him. Why? Because his 5th cousin killed one of us. This is against Islam. Okay? And against any state rule. Because in both, if there is a logic, catch the killer and kill him if he gets, a due trial and he comes out guilty. Okay, kill him. This is something with logic, according both to Islam and the state law. But killing a 5th cousin who is a 2-year-old toddler, this is against both state law and the religious law together. So this actually shows that the tribal law is much more powerful than any other law, religious or civil law. Another good example is what is called honor killing. Honor killing is if your, let's say, 24-year-old daughter allows herself too much with boys, you will slaughter her because she brought shame on the family. Again, this is against any state law, because a 24-year-old lady has the permission to do whatever she likes with whoever she likes because she's a grown-up. And it's also against Islam. Because in Islam, if a woman involved in adultery, you have to bring her to court and to bring 4 witnesses. 4 udul means they are grown-ups, people who are sane, people who saw her together. Okay, well, in any case that they kill a daughter for rumors, did she do it with 4 witnesses? 4 male grown-ups who are praying, and okay, this is never happened such a thing. So according to Islam, you are not allowed to punish a girl if not through a due trial. But we keep hearing about this honor killing on left, right, and center, especially in the Middle East. So this is against Islam, and this is against any state law which gives freedom to a 24-year-old lady. Okay? So this shows you that the tribal law is way much more important than any other law which came later. Because Islam is only 14 centuries, and the state laws are not even 1 century. And these 2 things, the religion and the state, failed in replacing the laws of the groups, which are there for thousands of years, way before Islam came to the world, and definitely before the states came to the world. Every tribe has its own leadership, the shuyukh, and or jaha, as they call it in other parts, and the sheikh, or the leadership, are real leadership, not elected like in democracies like here or in Israel or in Britain or in Europe, but they are, I would say, natural leaders who are not elected, but everybody with the consensus decided they are the leaders because they are real leaders. And according to the tradition in the Middle East, the sheikh, if there is a shortage of water, he will drink the last because he is responsible for the others before he is responsible for himself or for his own family. And if there is shortage of food, he will be the last to eat. Why? Because he is responsible for the others, to make sure that the others are eating. Because if he eats or drinks before the others, it is aib. It is a shame on him. What do you care about yourself? Care for the others. Okay, this is a real leadership, not politicians who care about their own pocket or their own interests. So this is a real leadership. And usually, when there are disputes between people, they go to the old people to solve the conflict. Usually, what the old people tell the people, those who are in conflict, is sacred. And this is implemented only because the Jaha told us what to do. Means there is a system which works, has a hierarchy, and rules and laws. And this is the only thing which can work in such a society which is built on the family. And the Middle East is an area which only such a thing can work. Marriage, usually within the clan, because you don't give your daughter to others, because the others are, in many cases, the enemy, because they wanted to take our water once. They once killed one of us, and they did on this and that, and we did it to them. So the other, with a big O, could be a different tribe, could be different, another group, is almost by definition the enemy, because he is the other. So you will never give your daughter to your enemy, because they will abuse her. Now, the marriage within the family, within the clan, has a very, very high price of genetic problems, preserving or perpetuating genetic problems. And the Middle East is well known in this problem. It is like a laboratory of genetic issues. Even in Israel, this is very serious, and in most cases very saddening thing, because I'm talking about diseases. Look, even in Israel, of modern Israel, 40% of the marriages within the Arab sector in the north, where is the most of the Arab sector lives, 40% of the marriages are within the clan. So if somebody who is an Arab is involved in, let's say, was injured in a road accident, and he lost his consciousness, and he is being treated in hospital, in most cases, the doctors will not inject anything to his body unless they know from which village he came or from which town he came. Why? Because every town is a clan, and every clan has its own genetic sensitivities. This one to this kind of penicillin, this kind of antibiotics, or this kind of medications, and the doctors know already the map of sensitivities because of genetic issues. So they, in most cases, will refrain from injecting medications to anyone who they don't know where he came from, only in order not to harm him by injecting things which he is sensitive to. And this is what comes out from this issue of marriage within the clan. So this is one. In Saudi Arabia, by the way, there are areas which a couple cannot get married unless they get the permission from the government or Ministry of Health, because of the percentage of kids who are genetically damaged because of marriage within the clans. So the government checks both the groom and the bride and potential groom and bride in order to make sure that they do not carry the same problematic genes and will have high probability of having kids with problems. So this is what happens today in Saudi Arabia. And the Saudis do it only because they had to take care of too many kids. We have a group in the Negev, in the Israeli south, Al-Sayed, for example. This is a tribe in the southern part of Israel. A quarter of the kids are deaf because they have a problematic gene which connected to the ear. And since their tradition is to marry only within the tribe, a quarter of the kids do not hear. Okay, so this is the price of marriage within the clan for generations, and this is what I mean by marrying in the clan. The tribe has its own space, its own land, and they are very careful to keep their land. Oops, this is not what I meant. For example, this is the map of Iraq. The real map of Iraq. And every one of these mosaic parts is one tribe. And this is the list of the names with the numbers. Okay, now they are not nomads. They live on steady place because they have water. Here is the Euphrates. This is the Euphrates, and this is the Tigris. And between the two rivers, there are Iraq, and this is the source of the name of the country. Iraq in Arabic means veins. Irq, like Orek in Hebrew, means canals of water which equate the level of the water between the two rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris. So you can live either near the river or near the canal, because you have constant flow of water, so you can live, because Iraq has no rain. Iraq is a very dry country, and without having access to the water, you are dead. So they have borders in order to make sure that everyone stays in his space and doesn't take the space of the other, and every tribe has a fighting militia, arms to its teeth, and this is what happens in Iraq. However, when we talk about Iraq, the tribal division, which is this on the map, is not the only one. The tribes in the north, in this part of the country, in most parts, are Kurds. This is a Kurdish ethnic group, which are not Arabs. They don't speak Arabic. Traditionally, they are Kurds. Different mindset, different traditions, different language, different everything. Like Japanese and Romanians. Different nations, different mindset, different culture, different everything. So these are Kurds. these in most part are Arabs, but this enclave and this enclave are Turkmens, Turkish, not Kurds, Turkish, who came down from Turkey and settled here a few hundreds of years ago, and nobody gets married with them because they are Turkish. Okay? And these are Persians. Again, nobody gets married with them because they are Persians. They don't speak Arabic. So why? Okay? So this is what tribalism is. Okay? Since they are different, we don't get married with them. They don't get married with us. We don't mingle. We don't share almost anything. And this is why every group preserves its culture forever, because they don't send the kids to the same school, they don't go to the same workplace or the same public sphere or the same mall. Okay, so this is why the tribalism actually is preserved in this part of the country. So Iraq is divided to 4 ethnic groups: Kurds, Arabs, Turkmens, and Persians, divided to 70-something tribes, clans. Now, most of them are Muslims, but in Iraq there are at least 9 more religions. 9. There are some Jews who remain there in the cities. Christians, there were 2 million Christians until 6 years ago. They ran away, almost all of them, because of the mayhem in Iraq in the recent years. But traditionally there were Christians in Iraq, and there are Sabais and Mandays and Yazidis. Yazidis were living here in this area, and recently we heard how the males are being slaughtered and the women are being sold to slavery by the Islamic State, which now is being toppled. But this is what they did for the last couple of years. And there are Zoroastrians, and there are Druze and Alawis who ran away from Syria, and Shubaks and other groups, religious groups, very small, but yet there are in Iraq. So there is 10 religions, and some of these religions are divided to sects. The Muslims are divided between Sunnah and Shia, and Sufis and Salafis, and the Shia is divided to subdivision of the Shia, and the Sunnah also are divided. And the Christians, when they were in Iraq, they had 8 denominations. Some of them didn't speak to the others, Assyrians and others. And the Shubaks also are divided to sects and so forth. So the Iraqi society is actually, or the Iraqi citizens, are divided along ethnic lines: Kurds, Arabs, Persians, and Turkmens; along tribal lines, which is this picture; along religious lines: Muslims, Christians, Jews, Yazidis, Shubaks, and so forth; and sectarian lines: Sunnah, Shia, denominations, and so forth. Okay? Every possible axis of division occurs in Iraq. Now, the British Empire drew the borders of Iraq some 90 years ago, and they hoped that with time, since they all have the same flag and the same national anthem and the same government and the same army and the same police and the law system and the post office and all the symbols and the same passport and identity card and so forth, all these symbols of state will with the time replace the traditional loyalties to the tribe, to the ethnic group, to the religious and the sectarian groups, and they will all define themselves as Iraqis, will feel fraternity with each other, will get married with each other, and will sit around one fire and sing Kumbaya together. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. The Muslims remained loyal to Islam, the Christians remained loyal to Christianity, the Jews remained Jews, the Shubaks, and the Yazidis, and the Zoroastrians, and so forth. And the Turkmens remain Turkmens, and the Kurds remain Turks, and Arabs remain Arabs, and Persians remain. All these groups and the tribes still are there, and they continue to fight each other. And the sects, the Shia remain Shia, and the Sunnah remain Shia, and Sunnah, and so forth. And all this dream about creating a nation, Iraqi nation, based on the citizenship, the border, the government, and the other symbols, and the flag of the state, actually failed in replacing the traditional loyalties. And this is the source of all evil in Iraq. The fact that people do not define themselves inside Iraq as Iraqis. They do define themselves Iraqis when they come here with a passport, because they all have the same passport. They don't have another passport. So they come here, I'm Iraqi, I'm Iraqi, I'm Iraqi. But inside Iraq, I'm Samrai, and I'm Abidi, and I'm this and I'm this, because according to the tribe. Or I am a Christian, I am a Muslim, I am a Sunnah, I am a Shia, and so forth. And inside Iraq, they don't define themselves as Iraqis, because Iraq is the state. Now, the state, the modern state, tries in this case, and in many other cases as well, to impose the state law on all the groups in order to replace the loyalty and the traditions to modern state law. So the state actually negates the traditional law which everybody is loyal to. So the state is the enemy, because the state wants to impose its agenda, its law, and its ideas on the citizens in order to make them all Iraqis, in order for everybody to abandon his traditional loyalty and to become Iraqi and to fight together against their enemies and to work together in the workplace and to forget all these feuds and struggles which they carry for centuries. Okay, this is what the state wants, to settle in the hearts of the people by imposing its agenda and laws and so forth. So the state actually is the enemy, because the state wants to change us from being this or that group to be Iraqis and to adopt a modern law which we do not agree with. For example, equality between men and women and everything, which Saddam Hussein tried to impose on because of his agenda. People, they have their traditions, and the tradition doesn't always equate between men and women. Okay, so what should we do? Should we adopt the culture of the state, which opens all kinds of things which we do not believe in? Okay, so this is why the state is viewed as the enemy. And this is why the citizens fight the state when the state tries to impose itself on the people. So this is, I would say, totally different from this country. Because here the difference between the individual and the state is only the size. Because Americans are all part of America, and America is the collective, and everyone is the individual, and we are Americans. Means people in America are Americans. This is not in the Middle East. We are Shia, we are Sunnah, and the state tries to impose all kinds of other divisions. Iraq is not the only state with these problems. Many other countries are like this. Let me just show you a little example. Another mayhem in the Middle East is Yemen. This is the map of the tribes in Yemen. Okay? Now, this map actually reflects the landscape of Yemen. Why? Every tribe lives on one mountain, in the top of the mountain, in order to protect itself. Because if you live on the top, I'll show you how it looks like, in order to understand how these tribes look like. This is a tribe. This is a tribe.
Holy is that? It's all right.
Okay? And when people live in such places on the top of the mountain, they don't get married with the others from the other mountain because boys and girls do not meet. Because you don't go there because you are not one of them. And they will not let you in because you are from another tribe. Okay? So this is what happens, and this is the society of Yemen. So there is no Yemenite nation. There are tribes in Yemen. And this actually explains the everlasting feuds and struggles within Yemen, which actually allowed Saudi Arabia and Iran today go into the cracks between those tribes in order to recruit some tribes to this side, some to this side, because they don't have awareness of united nation as Yemenites. Of course, when they go abroad, they have one passport, but it doesn't mean that there is one nation. The passport does not make a nation. And this is what happens in the Middle East, unlike in this country, which you become an American once you get your papers as an American. In the Middle East, once you get the papers, doesn't mean that you are part of the nation. Because which clan do you belong to? Which sect do you belong to? Okay? This is why when these groups are alive and kicking, and I would even say, unfortunately, alive and killing in many cases, this is what actually undermines the stability of these states, because the state actually fails in imposing its rules and agenda over those groups which remain powerful against the state. And this situation in Syria is the same, but in Syria, I would say not only the state is viewed as illegitimate by the citizens as it is in Iraq and Yemen, also the leadership means, thank you so much, the rulers, because let's say in Yemen, the ruler until recently, Ali Abdullah Saleh, was at least Muslim from the other Muslims in Yemen. Saddam Hussein, although he was Sunnah from the minority against the Shia of the majority of Iraq, at least he was a Muslim. But in Syria, the rulers, at least from 1966, already more than 50 years, Salah Jadid, Hafiz Assad, and his son Bashar, are all from the Alawi sect. Now, the Alawi sect is an offshoot which came out of Islam like 1,000 years ago, and they are viewed as idol worshippers. And they are really idol worshippers. I can show you. I have here the picture which I took from a sanctuary of the Alawis, which they actually worship statues of pigeons, and even they revere Mother Mary as a goddess. Not only the mother of Jesus Christ, but as a goddess by herself. So somebody who worships a lady, important as she is, as a goddess in the Middle East, is a sheer mushrik, as they say in Arabic, means idol worshipper. And of course, pigeons, which they also worship. So these are the Alawis. And the Assad family and the Jadid before him, between 1966 and 70, are parts of this sect. Now, the Alawis, since they are infidels, at least according to the radical Muslims, they not only they don't have the right to rule, there is a big question if they have at all the right to live. Because mushrikeen means idol worshippers, according to some interpretations of Islam, have the choice between converting to Islam or bear the consequences. to the end. Okay, so not only this, they don't have, of course, they don't have the right to rule over Muslims. This is something which is against the rules of physics. An infidel can rule a Muslim or Islamic society? It's unheard of. Okay, so this is actually the source of all evil in Syria. And the struggle today, which started already 6 years ago in March 2011, is about this. Because the majority of the Syrians who are Muslims reject the rule of the Alawis, which are like 10% of the population. But this is not the problem, the percentage. The problem is that they are infidels. And actually, if you read the literature of the Muslim Brotherhood in Syria from the 1970s and the 80s, the former round of violence in Syria between 76 and 82, you can read exactly this, how the Muslim Brotherhood related to the Assad family. Those days it was Hafiz Assad, the father of Bashar, as the Taria. Taria in Arabic means an infidel who tries to rule us, or tyrant who tries to rule us, although he is an infidel. This is actually in the background of what happens today in Syria. So people think that they are fighting for the government. Wrong. They are fighting, the Alawis in Syria, they are fighting for the connection between their heads and shoulders. Because they know exactly what will happen to this connection if they fall into the hands of the radical Islamists. And we saw it with the Islamic State, how they treat infidels, Shia and others, by beheading them. And this is as they believe, and the Alawis know it. How do I know? There is a document which was written in 1936, means more than 80 years ago, by a group of notables from the Alawi community. And this is a letter which was sent in 1936 when Syria was still under the French mandate, and they sent it to Léon Blum, who was then the Prime Minister of France, begging him not to withdraw from Syria. Because if you French leave Syria, the Muslims will slaughter us. This is what they write, of course in Arabic, in a letter to the Léon Blum, the Prime Minister of, and they know. One of the signatories on this letter is Suleiman al-Assad, the grandfather of Bashar, the father of Hafiz Assad. Okay, they know exactly. And this was 80 years ago already. Okay, so the writing was on the wall, but it was in Arabic. Who reads Arabic? Who understands it? Who understands the mindset of these people? Because languages is not a powerful point in Western colonialism. Who cares about the indigenous people? Let them kill each other. Who cares? This was the attitude in many cases with the colonialism, how they treated the indigenous peoples, especially in the Middle East. So this is why what the creation of the states which were created by the colonialism, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Algeria, Sudan. Look, Sudan is a country with 600 tribes. 600 tribes. Hundreds of religions, because every tribe has its own totem, has its own deity, idols, and different languages and different. Who the heck thought that this will be one nation, the Sudani nation? There is no such a nation. There are tribes, much more than a nation. And this is why there was a constant war between the northern part of Sudan and the southern part of Sudan, of like 60 years of war since the 50s. Okay, a few years ago it was divided between Sudan and southern Sudan, and the wars continue within the southern Sudan and within Sudan, and it will continue to divide itself, like Darfur will have one day their independence and others, because they never became one nation and they never became one consolidated group. And this is what happens in the Middle East. And the politics is always a derivative of the social situation. So, what do I understand until now? when you create a state based on heterogeneous societies or heterogeneous group of people, you get a mayhem. As Iraq is, Syria, Algeria. Algeria had a 6 year of civil war between 1992 and 1998 because of difference between the north, which is adopted French culture, and the south, which remained loyal to the tribal culture and Islam, of course, and the Bedouins in the south. So they fought each other for 6 years in the cost of the lives of like 150,000 people in Algeria. Who knows about this? Who cares about this? I don't remember any demonstration in the American streets or those bloody 6 years of bloodshed in Algeria. Who cares? Okay, this is the attitude of the West to what happens in the Middle East. In Sudan, the war between the North and the South cost the lives of like 2 million people along the 60 years. Who cares? Who knows about this? Okay, nobody knows about this. The war inside Iraq between all the factions and the tribes and the sects and everything, already who knows? Nobody counts. In Syria, it's more or less 500,000 people, 600,000 people. People lost count because they continue this struggle until this very day. And every day there are dozens of people being killed. It's not no news anymore. And it doesn't, nobody reports of it because it became a daily bloodshed, unfortunately, in Syria. So this is what happens when you try to create a state based on nothing, based on multiple of groups which never became one consolidated nation. However, the Middle East has also other examples of other kinds of states. And I'm talking about, if we go back to this map, the Gulf Emirates. I'm talking about Kuwait, Qatar, and the 7 Emirates of United Arab Emirates. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, Fujairah. Okay, these countries which you never hear about. United Arab Emirates, by the way, they are states which are united, not like New York, New Jersey, Oklahoma, and Florida. They are united like Germany, France, Belgium, Holland, and Spain. Means they are independent from each other, they are sovereign, every one of them is sovereign, and everyone is separate from the other. Here, New York is not sovereign. Florida is not sovereign. The Union has the sovereignty, right? And the army belongs to the Union, not to New York and not to Florida. Okay, so it's not like here, United States of America. They are like the European Union, which every country is still independent and sovereign, just like Germany and France. This is why Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah and so forth. In Europe, they united the currency and, let's say, the standards of the industrial productions. Okay. There, they united only the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, means they have one embassy in Washington, D.C., and America has one embassy in Abu Dhabi, which represents America to all the 7 together. Means they united the foreign policy, and they united the armed forces, which in their case is more or less the coastal guard, because they guard the oil facilities in the Gulf. This is more or less what they united. Didn't unite the police, like they don't have an FBI united FBI. They didn't unite even the economy. They don't have one currency. They don't have, okay. So this is a very loose union of the United Arab Emirates. So you can definitely speak about 7 separate states. So we have United Arab Emirates, 7 states. We have Qatar and we have Kuwait. 9 countries altogether, and I exclude Bahrain. These 9 countries are stable, are rich, and nobody hears about any fight inside them. and they are life in heaven. Why? Some would say because of the oil. Right? Wrong. Because Dubai has no oil. And Dubai is one of the richest states of the world, in the whole world. Iraq has a lot of oil. And Iraq is a failing state. And so is Libya. A lot of oil. And a failing state. And Yemen and Sudan, also oil-producing countries, and they are failing states. Means evidently, the oil is not the element, because if the oil was the element of good life, Iraq was heaven, and so was Libya, and Yemen, and Sudan, and Dubai, without oil, would be a hell. But the situation is totally opposite. Dubai is heaven, while Iraq and Sudan and Yemen and Libya are hell. So evidently it's not the oil. So what is the element which brings good life to the Gulf, if not the oil? The fact, no, there's no water over there. They distill water. The fact that every one of these countries is one single tribe. Homogeneous society. Kuwait, they have little clans, but the major tribe of Kuwait is Al-Sabah. Al in Arabic means a clan. It comes from the word Ahl, which is the parallel of Hebrew Ohel, a tent. So we say Beit Israel, the house of Israel. They say the tent of Sabah, which is the same. What's the difference between a house and a tent? The place where you live, okay? So the linguistic aspect here is the same. We say bayit, they say al, means ahl, means tent. Okay, so Al-Sabah is the leading family of Kuwait. They are significant, big, and they have the leadership, and the leadership of the country of Kuwait is the leadership of the tribe, the traditional leadership of the tribe. And of course they have some small clans who do not have any political aspirations. So everybody agrees and the state is legitimate, nobody shakes the boat. Qatar is Al Thani. This is the family, or the major family of Qatar. And they also know how to incorporate other small clans in order to work together rather than fighting. Abu Dhabi is Al Nihyan. This is the name of the clan of Abu Dhabi. So every emirate is actually one Al, or one significant Al, while small groups join them because the small groups do not want to fight, and they cannot fight the big family, so they cooperate for the good of everybody. And this is why these countries are stable. So when you have homogeneous society, the society is functioning. On this you can build a political arena which functions, and they don't have elections in these emirates. Why they don't have elections? They don't need elections because they have leadership, real leadership, not politicians who compete with each other, and after they fail to run the country, we, the citizens, exchange them, and after 4 years or 8 years we'll again exchange them because every time they fail. Okay? They have no option to fail because they are responsible for the people, really responsible. And because they are real leaders, they are part of the people. And nobody challenges them because they are the leading families already from 200 years ago when those tribes were riding camels in the desert. Okay, today they are riding golden Lamborghinis. So what? What's the difference between a camel and a Lamborghini? This is 4x4 and this is 4x4. What, the speed? Okay. Modern tools do not change the culture. You can have the state of the art of the cell phone and the computer and the car, but if you will force your daughter to marry her cousin, it means that you are still loyal to the rules of the tribe. In spite of the fact that you use the internet and the modern tools, okay? Using tools doesn't necessarily mean that you change your mindset and your culture. Okay? So when you have homogeneous society, you have a functioning political arena, nobody challenges them because they are legitimate, and on this you can build skyscrapers with helicopter pads on them. When they want to go to the private jet, they don't have to stand in line or in the red lights, so they can fly from the apartment with a helicopter to the airport to the private jet, because they are rich, even without oil like Dubai. In Iraq, since the society is fragmented along tribal lines, ethnic lines, religious lines, and sectarian lines, the society doesn't function as a society. And when two tribes are fighting in the streets, the representatives in the parliament are fist fighting with each other, so the political arena cannot function. But this is already good, because in Libya, they shoot each other in the parliament house with RPG. An RPG is a hollow charge which you do not want to blow up near you. It can blow up a tank. Okay, and if they shoot each other in the parliament building in Libya. This is why the political arena cannot function in states like Libya, and the economy is in constant collapse, because who with the right mind will invest the second penny after the first penny blew up in one of the actions? Okay, so the heterogeneous states are failures in spite of the oil, while the homogeneous countries are stories of success in spite of the lack of oil in the Dubai case. So this is actually, so far, introductory to the Middle East history of the 20th century. Everything in the Middle East now is a derivative of this issue, of the giant difference between homogeneous societies like in the Gulf and heterogeneous societies like in other countries. Saudi Arabia is a country which is heterogeneous, but it was shaped and built by Ibn Saud. This is why it carries his name, by Saudi Arabia, the father of the kings, the 6 kings which we remember from our life recently, Abdullah and his brother Fahad, and the Sultan and Khalid and all those kings which were along the last couple of decades. And Salman is the last one of the brothers, and who are all the descendants of one ancestor, which means the Ibn Saud, Abdulaziz Ibn Saud, who actually made the country during the 20s of the last century. Now, he succeeded to galvanize, to large extent, tribes by marriage. He had a group of fighters, he named them the Ikhwan, the brothers, armed to their teeth with young camels who can run very fast, and he would come to a tribe, let's say in Hassa, in the northern part of, he was from Najd, from the part where Riyadh is. He was from here. He, let's say, would come to a tribe who lives in other part of the country, sit with the sheikh of the tribe and tell him, look, I'm trying to make a whole kingdom, and I want you to join the kingdom, and I will marry one of your daughters. And if you agree, good, you are one of us. And if not, my brothers will take care of you. So, who with the right mind will not agree? The price is very low. You give one daughter, and that's it. She could be 14 years old, and this is actually what was there. And nobody knows. He had a good number of wives, and he never told anybody who are the 4 wives which are with full rights, and who are the Jawari, means the concubines, which he annexed. Because according to Islam, you can have 4 wives, and Jawari as many as you can feed. Okay, this is according to Islamic law. but he never disclosed who are the four wives with full rights and who are the concubines. Okay, so this is how he shaped the country with many tribes by marriage. Now, who did not join the family? Two groups. The Shia in the east, in this part, because a Shi'i will never give his daughter to a Sunnah, because according to some Shi'i interpretations, the Sunnah are impure. So a Shi'i will never give his daughter to a Sunni. So the Shia, until this very day, are a source of problems within Saudi Arabia. The other group are the people on the mountains of Yemen, because the border between Saudi Arabia and Yemen is on the mountains, and some of the Yemenites actually are part of Saudi Arabia. This is the area of Najran. Now, those tribes have different culture because they live on mountains, as we saw on the top of the mountains, while the Saudis are nomads who live in the plain lands. And this is a different culture, because when you study on one place, when you live in one place, you develop a different culture. And those people didn't want to get married to those who are nomads, because they look at them from high and above. So two groups didn't join, and these two groups actually give the problems, because the Bin Ladens came from the south, because they do not feel part of the family. So the state tries to incorporate them by money, or by, as you know, the Bin Laden family have one of the biggest companies in the world of infrastructure, paving roads, communications, everything. And they actually got most of the jobs in Saudi Arabia of developing the country, in order to give them, if they didn't join the family, at least let them join the economy. Means give them jobs. It worked in most cases, and the Bin Laden family, the Bin Laden clan, usually is, or most of them are loyal to the state, not because of the marriage, but because of the jobs. However, one went astray, Osama bin Laden, he got crazy, okay, and then he acted against the country. But the Bin Laden family actually denounced him, and they published that they denounce him, that he doesn't belong to them anymore, and they call in Arabic sak bara'a. Sak bara'a means that they declare that as of the publication of this document, he is not anymore part of us, we reject him, we actually chase him out from our clan, we are not responsible for what he's doing, and he is not responsible for what we are doing, and we are detached from him, and he is on his own. And this is actually what they did with Osama bin Laden, because he acted against the country, which they all serve very, and they are loyal to the state. So this is the Bin Laden actually. This is actually the groups which did not join the kingdom, and this is why they give problems. So, but Saudi Arabia was built not according to Western ideas of democracy or republic or monarchy, whatever. They have their own culture, which united those tribes by marriage. And this is something which is based on the tradition of the Middle East. So, as a conclusion, states which reflect the culture of the Middle East are stable states, while states which were created artificially by the colonialism, by the French and the British, and reflect European ideas, did not settle in the hearts and are failures as they are in the Middle East. And this is actually the source of the problems in this region. Unfortunately, religion also plays a role here. Originally, Islam came to the world in order to unify the tribes. And this was actually the idea of the Ilaf Quraysh, which Islam was designed for. Ilaf Quraysh means the coalition of the tribes of the Arabian Peninsula, which Muhammad, in this peace be upon him, started his prophecy in the 7th century in order to give all the tribes, I would say, common denominator, which will be the religion, by abandoning their idols and converting to Islam. And he hoped that this common denominator of the religion will galvanize all the tribes to one nation, and this will be the Islamic nation forever. However, when we see today what happens, that this idea of galvanizing everybody, uniting everybody, didn't work. For example, the hadith says that the Prophet recommends gharribun nikah, means marry from afar. Means don't force your daughter to marry her cousin, because those days they already knew about genetic problems. And the Prophet recommends very highly to his followers, don't continue this habit of marrying within the clan. Marry from afar, gharribun nikah, or ba'idun nikah according to others. Okay, this is the recommendation. But what do we see? They continue. Means they didn't take this recommendation in most parts, or in most cases. This one thing. Second thing, we do see how until this very day, unfortunately, the rifts within the Islamic nation are more than obvious. How Kurds are fighting the Turks, and they are two different ethnic groups, and they are fighting each other big time in Turkey. How Arabs are fighting with Kurds in Iraq, in Syria. How tribes fight each other in Libya. How, okay, in the situation, unfortunately, of the Islamic nation today, definitely give some doubts whether Islam succeeded in unifying all the factions of the Islamic world. And actually, we see, unfortunately, that in many cases it didn't succeed. But not only this, sometimes the religion is being used as a tool against each other by what they say the takfir. Takfir means to declare that the other is a kafir, means is an infidel. Because once, let's say, the Sunnah, for example, would declare that the Shia are kuffar, as the Wahhabis do, the Saudis do, so the blood of the Shia is permitted. You can kill them because they are now defined by the religion as infidels. And vice versa. The Iranians, in some of them, they view the Sunnah as kuffar. So this is why they fight them. So the religion, instead of being an element which will unite the parts of Islam, actually is being used as a tool against each other in many cases, unfortunately. So this is, I would say, another element of instability which was meant to create stability but became something which works against the stability as we see, unfortunately, today. So here, this, I would say, are the, if I sum, the main problems of the Middle East are the loyalty to the tribe, the loyalty to the ethnic group, Kurds, Arabs, Turkmens, Berbers in North Africa, the loyalty or the continuing loyalty to the sect, Sunnah, Shia, Salafis, Sufis, and many others, and the failure of the states to replace the traditional loyalties and to adopt modern ways of thinking and modern ways of behavior with each other. Religion, unfortunately, became a problem rather than being a remedy, and not to mention the attitude to other groups like Jews, Christians, Yazidis, what happened in the atrocities that happened in northern Iraq with the Yazidis. So the religious views in too many cases became actually a problem for stability in the Middle East. And this is actually what we see in the news. The wars and the feuds and the struggles and the terror attacks and so forth, either between Sunni Shia or between sects or between groups or ethnic groups or tribal groups. And this is actually what is behind the news and the cause of this instability. The only hope for the Middle East is what we see in the Gulf. Means that the modern dysfunctioning or dysfunctional states will cease to exist, and every group will have its own pond, its own space to deal with its own business and to leave the others alone. High fences make good neighbors. And this rule works. How do I know? Already there are states which are on the process of fragmentation. Sudan already is divided, and it will continue. Syria is divided. There is a Kurdish part, there is an Alawi part, there is a Druze part, there is other parts. Iraq is divided. The Kurds in the north are independent, factually. I think in few months they will have a referendum whether to declare independence or not. The Kurdish district of Iraq means factually they're already independent. They have their own army, the Peshmerga. They have their own government. They have their own economy. They sell oil to countries like Israel. Hell's bells. The Kurds in Iraq are selling oil to Israel because they have no problem with Israel. Okay? And they have their own foreign policy apart from the Iraqi state because they are factually independent. Now they are approaching a stage which they will decide by referendum whether they want to have it not only de facto, also de jure. Means to have all the way independence from the Iraqi state. I think it will be in November, either in October or November, and they are already preparing this referendum. And they will have a state. So Iraq is also on the a course to become fragmented according to traditional lines like Kurds, Arabs, and so forth. In my view, Iran one day will end up also like this because Iran is also a conglomerate of like 40 ethnic groups. Persians and Azeris and Balochis and Arabs and Kurds and many others. And there are domestic fights between the government and the Baloch in the southeast and between the government and the Kurds in the northwest. Iran, believe me, one day will end up like the Soviet Union, fragmented according to ethnic lines, just like what happened in the Soviet Union. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Georgia, Ukraine, okay, all these are ethnic groups. And what happened in the Soviet Union will happen in Iran as well, and it also happened in Czechoslovakia. As you know, Czechoslovakia was divided in the Czech tribe and the Slovak tribe, who have both states. Yugoslavia was during the 90s fragmented to normal states. Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro, Slovenia, all these countries which are more or less homogeneous, and now they are peaceful after they were a mayhem and a dictatorship under Tito until he was chased out. So this is I would say, the trend of fragmentation, and under the rebels we get homogeneous units in the Middle East, and this is, in my view, is the future and the remedy. Because once a group controls itself, it is legitimate, nobody fights each other, the government is legitimate, usually, and people are happy, they don't fight each other, take care of the economy for the good of everybody. They don't step on each other's toes, unlike conglomerates, which never became one nation. And this is actually, if we take one step backwards and we look at the map of the Middle East, this is actually the process, and this is the hope for this unfortunate region, which has those states which were created by the colonialism, by Britain and France in most cases, Italy when it comes to Libya, without any care for the people. Now the people care for themselves and create more homogeneous units which have all the prospects to flourish rather than being dysfunctional as these states are. This is more or less what I wanted to say. And I will open the floor maybe for questions, and I'll try to answer. Yes.
How will Turkey react to an independent Kurd state in Iraq?
Well, already, how will Turkey relate to an independent Kurdish state in Iraq? Let me give you, reveal a secret to you. Since the Kurds in Iraq have no access to the sea, how do they ship the oil to us?
Turkey?
Lo and behold. Turkey. Why?
They make money.
Money. Money makes the world go on. You remember? Liza Minnelli, Joel Grey, you remember that? Cabaret? Money. Yes.
How do you explain, and it is familiar now with Palestinians and Israel, with the West Bank and Israel? I mean,
Well, I advocate the Emirate solution being emulated also with the Palestinians, because socially, the Palestinians in Gaza do not get married with the Palestinians in the West Bank, because Gaza is more or less Bedouin society, or society with Bedouin background, while the people in the Judean Samaria, the so-called West Bank, are peasants and city dwellers, not people from the desert. So, and they have different language, by the way, and language here plays a major role. And another example is a girl from Hebron has, in most cases, no option to get married to a boy from Nablus, because they are, as they say in Arabic, "Sie sind nicht unseres." You know Arabic.
Can you translate that?
They are, it says in Yiddish, they are not from us. They are not the same clans. And actually, if you give me the name of somebody who lives in the West Bank, I'll tell you where he lives. Just like if you are Stern, he lives in Rochester, because all the Sterns are the tribe of Rochester. Okay? This is actually what happens there. So, in order to create a stable entities, you have to base it on the clans. So this is why I advocate, you can read it on a website named www.palestinianemirates.com. How I describe the solution: emirate in Hebron for the clans of Hebron, which are cooperating with each other for hundreds of years. They have a court to solve all the problems within Hebron. Another emirate in Jericho for the Arikat clan. Another one in Ramallah for the Barghoutis and the Tawils and the Abu'ins. Another one in Shechem, Nablus, for the Masri, Tukan, and Shaq'a, and so forth in the cities, the 7 cities of the West Bank, while Israel should forever remain in the rural areas in order to make sure that we don't have one state which will become a Hamastan, just like what happened in Gaza. Nobody in the world would like to live near such a terror state, like in Gaza. So this is the only solution which has some connection with the sociology rather than about dreams about a nation which doesn't exist. Since there is no Iraqi nation, there is no Yemenite nation, there is no Syrian nation, no Libyan nation, they're all tribes. And you know what? Let me give you, there's news. There is no Israeli nation as well. Because Israel is a state with 2 major groups, Jews and Arabs. Through the 70 years of independence, Jews did not become Arabs, Arabs did not become Jews, and both did not become something else which is neither Jewish nor Arab, Israeli artificial entity. There is no such a thing. In spite of the fact that we have one state, one flag, one national anthem, one government, one Knesset, one everything, Jews remain Jews and Arabs in Israel remained Arabs. Okay, this is the reality. Nobody can change it. Okay, because states in the Middle East do not make nations, unlike the situation here. So, since there is no Israeli nation, there's Jewish and Arabs. There is no Syrian. I highly doubt if there is a Palestinian nation, because they are also fragmented along tribal lines. So why go against the sociology? Go with the sociology, since it's the only thing which works in the Middle East. If you build a state based on homogeneous social group. So this is why the Emirates, or emulating the Emirate paradigm within the Palestinians, is the only thing which can work, and you can read about this in this website, PalestinianEmirates.com. Sir.
So how did the fragmented society of the Arabs or Muslims be able to unite to one issue, is to fight the Jews in the land of Israel? Well, what's the how did
This is fighting the Jews is only a slogan. Don't forget that we have already peace with Egypt, with the state of Egypt, not with the people, but with the state, and there's the big difference, already since 1979. Means already almost 40 years. We have peace with Jordan, with the state, with a ruling family. Already since 1994, means what, 23 years already. Okay? So the slogans about unifying the Arab world against Israel is no more than a slogan. So, okay, we are not carried away by slogans. Yes?
What about completely artificial creations such as Jordan? What kind of future do you see for Jordan?
In my humble view, Jordan lives on a borrowed time, because Jordan is actually an upside down pyramid. A state with a majority of people who define themselves as Palestinians, based on a minority of Bedouins, like 20%, which are standing on one family of the king, which are not even Jordanian. They were brought by the British from Saudi Arabia in the 20s. So, totally illegitimate. Now, the king, the current king, married a Palestinian lady in order to unify, the Jordan, the family with the Palestinians. This is how it is viewed, and everybody likes this idea. Okay? He married a Palestinian wife, so it's nice. Okay? Just like in Europe of the Middle Ages, of the marriage between the houses.
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. However, in Jordan, it is viewed by the Palestinians in Jordan, it is viewed in a totally different way. And here comes the joke. And as you know, a joke everywhere actually reveals the real issues. This is why the joke is funny. The Palestinians in Jordan say that the king married a Palestinian wife in order to do to her at night what he is doing to us during the day. Okay? So, as good as it is viewed from here, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. From here it looks nice. From the Palestinian part of Jordan, it is viewed in a rather negative way. Sir?
We have been in Afghanistan for 15 years, and some of our leadership thinks that we should be sending more soldiers into Afghanistan to prop up that country. They have factions that just don't get along.
Let me show you the map of Afghanistan, only to show how right you are. This is the map of Afghanistan. It's in Hebrew, but it's okay. And the different colors are different ethnic groups. And this is the legend. Kyrgyzis, Turkmenis, Nuristanis, Pamiris, Pashtunis, Tajikis, Hazaris, Uzbekis, Aimakis, Baluchis, and there are many others. Okay? And this is Afghanistan. They don't have common language, unlike India. The English is the common language of the people in India. They do not have common language because they didn't learn English. So they cannot even speak to each other because they don't have common language, so they shoot each other. And this is why Afghanistan is actually a dead body politic. And unfortunately, states like the Soviet Union during the 80s, America today, as you mentioned, are trying to resuscitate a dead body politic. This cannot function. So many groups which have nothing in common, maybe a hatred to the Brits and the Americans who try to interfere in their own issues. This is the only thing, but this is not a positive thing to cooperate about. So this is the source of all evil. This state should have been divided to ethnic states and let every ethnic group deal with its own business and leave the others alone. Just like the Soviet Union, just like Yugoslavia, just like Czechoslovakia. Why not? Why keeping this is such a dysfunctional entity? And you know what? Let me tell you something from my own experience. 2010, Obama was in his first presidency. He collected all the wise people for like 2 weeks of discussions about Afghanistan. What the heck to do with this country? McChrystal was the general who was there, the commander. And what to do with this Afghanistan? I happened to be in Washington, D.C. I came to a conference in Washington of an organization named ASMIA. ASMIA, Association for the Study of the Middle East and Africa. And I presented there in this conference a paper about how to divide the modern states to traditional frameworks in order to create functional states other than this. And I came to Union Station like 6 hours before the conference started. I took, precautions, in case something gets. And I had to kill like 6 hours. So I decided, why not selling this paper to the State Department? I Googled and I found, there was a guy named, it was a Jewish special envoy to Pakistan and Afghanistan. I forgot his name. A Jewish guy, a Jewish man who was
Richard somebody. Richard, he died.
right. Rich Holbrook, right. And I called his office to give him this program. Why not? Let them do it. So I called the office. He was not in the country, but one of his advisors answered me. And I said, look, my name is Mordechai Kedar. I came here to the Union Station. And I would like to suggest, I heard that President Obama is now holding a series of discussions about what to do with Afghanistan. I would like to give my idea to the State Department and to the presidency in order to discuss or to see this option to divide Afghanistan to homogeneous units. So he says, okay, send it to me by email and I'll see if something to talk about. I'll come out to the Union Station because didn't have time to clearance and so forth, so we'll come to the Union Station, of course, and we could sit in Starbucks. And why not? So I sent it to him by email. There is Wi-Fi in Union Station. And I sent it to him. He calls me after like 4 minutes. He read the executive summary. He started to shout at me, "You are a bigot! What, there is no Afghani nation?" I said, no. Not even one group is called traditionally Afghani. Afghanistan is an artificial name which was given to all of them together by the British in order to replace the traditional loyalties to a modern Afghani one and not being anymore Hazaris and Pashtunis and Baluchis and all the others. So I said, no, there is no Afghani nation. There are groups which are totally different. So he actually hung up on me. I wrote him an email, Dear Barney, I wish America to be out of Afghanistan by 2020. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure that it will happen by then. Because if people today talk about sending more forces, it means that America is not getting out from Afghanistan. And we are already in the second half of 2017. And this happened 7 years ago, in 2010. And I wished him that by 2020, America will be out. I'm afraid that America will be still there, sinking in the bloodbath of Afghanistan, only because America doesn't do the only thing which can save this part of the world by dividing it to homogeneous states based on sociology rather than on dreams of the British of the 19th century or the 18th century about an Afghani nation which doesn't exist.
Here, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's
well,
wonderful what
we
you
both
do.
share. I mean, I agree with some of his ways, but the problem is if we totally agree with his speech, then the whole world will become fragmented. Asia and Africa is agrarian society. They are not industrialized yet. So we need to, learn something. I think that's my view, so I don't want to say maybe, it will be too much fragmented, Africa and Asia both, if we go with this. I think maybe we go with the tribal system big. The tribal system big is how different tribes sent their leadership, like in Afghanistan and other parts of the world, they sent their leadership and how to have, in other words, the tribal chiefs can have their jargah or whatever system they have, and the country can live together.
This is an excellent idea which you say, Dr. Shafiq.
Dr. Shafiq.
We have two opposite examples in Africa. First of all, we all remember what happened in Biafra in the 70s. And we all remember what happened in Rwanda in the 90s. Rwanda was a fight between two tribes, the Hutus and the Tutsis. Okay? Because these two tribes were forced to live in one state named Rwanda. Okay? Instead of giving each of them his own state and leave the others alone. So this is definitely the massacres. 1 million people were killed in Biafra in the 70s and almost 1 million people in Rwanda. All these things would not be if there were tribal states. So tribal states definitely contribute to stability. But what you see, another example is a new state which almost nobody heard about, is named Somaliland. Not Somalia, Somaliland. It's a part of Somalia, which actually departed from Somalia. And this part of Somalia has 4 tribes who decided not to fight each other, because when you fight each other, everybody loses. When you cooperate with each other, everybody gains. So their 4 leaders are sitting together constantly in order to work out, to do things together rather than fighting. So Somaliland, in spite of the drought in this part of the world, they are not hungry. They can do something about this and they know what to do. Somalia, because they are fragmented and fighting each other, are hungry. And this is what happens on the ruins of the former Somalia. Somaliland in the north functioning because of the cooperation between the tribes, while Somalia is a dysfunctional state because they do not cooperate and they fight each other. So definitely you can see how the loyalties, the traditional loyalties, play a major role in modern feuds, wars, and problems. Thank you for the example. Yes, ma'am.
What do you believe in the case of areas of a larger country where there are holy places that multiple groups claim as belonging to them, because if you're going to let different ethnic groups, different religious groups, and you're going to divide up a bigger country by the beliefs and culture of those people, what happens when there's overlap?
Okay, we have some examples in the world about these things, like a sanctuary named Ayodhya in India, where the Hindus claim that this is a Hindu sanctuary, while Muslims claim that this is holy to Islam. And there are all kinds of feuds and struggles, but recently, I would say for 15 years already, they have some kind of agreement, because instead of dying together, let's live together. So when, you know, the struggles become too expensive when it comes to life and you know, not being injured, so let's live together by kind of agreements, but this has to be agreed upon by the parties, not by others who can impose on them, but they have to work it out. The same thing is about Jerusalem. Jerusalem is viewed by Sunni Muslims as the third place in holiness. Shia not, but the Sunnis yes. Not all of them, but most of them. Jews view Jerusalem as a holy place for Jews. What can be done? Agreements. And how to live together rather than how to die together. Today we have the problem of the metal detectors, which Israel decided to install, just like in the entrance of the Mecca in Saudi Arabia, the Vatican, or in Iraq, in many places. What can we do? When you have terrorists, we have to find their weapons before they shoot you, not after they shoot you. Okay? So, but there are people who objected, especially in Jerusalem, the Muslims, because they don't want to give the Jews the ownership of Jerusalem, because if the Israeli police will control Muslims, this is some kind of contradiction with the Islamic view that al-Islam ya'lu wa la yu'la alayhi, means Islam is above everything, especially Jews, which are din al-batil, means religion of falsehood, according to some interpretations. Okay, so this is a problem which, in my view, will be solved within some days. Tomorrow we have another test, because tomorrow is Friday, and many of those who oppose the Jewish presence in Jerusalem will try to make some problems. Okay, we have to sort it out.
Would you say that would be the same way to handle the tomb of the patriarchs in Hebron?
Yes, it should be. It should be. Mutual honor is the only way how to live together. So
how does it that in Egypt, where they have, is it 80% Muslim population and 20% Coptics, I think?
Copts.
Copts. How is it that they're getting along together?
They don't.
I know that there are issues of struggles. There are issues of struggles in America, right? There are blacks that are being killed by racist whites. There, the opposite is, there's struggles everywhere by these same ethnic, religious, whatever lines. But it's a matter of containment in some sense. So how is it that does Egypt contain their disparate communities?
Thank you so much. Well, the problem in Egypt is, of course, because of the fact that the Islamists in Egypt, who are a significant part of the population, feel that they are, let's say, oppressed by the government, and they actually take revenge against the government by hurting the Copts, who are in most cases protected by the government. Okay, so this is the way of how the struggle in Egypt. And unfortunately, in Egypt, only force will convince those Islamists to leave the others alone. It is in Sinai, and Sinai became a jihadi land recently, with all kinds of remnants of the Islamic State, of Al-Qaeda, and other jihadists who found asylum in the Sinai desert, in the Sinai Peninsula, and it pours also into Egypt. Definitely, Egypt is a problem, and unfortunately, only police can impose, the good behavior on those who want to topple the country and to impose Islamist agenda on it.
We have just one, I think, like you said, we're at a little bit after 9. Can we have just like 2 more questions?
So you see states devolving into homogeneous units.
Yes.
But we're still on the Roman model. It's the same issue that was since
Could be
Rome.
that some things which worked well in the Roman era could work very well today when the human nature remained the same human nature.
If people in Yemen are building bombs to put on airplanes to send to the U.S., there's something going on that allows these kinds of things to happen within these failed and fragmented states. How does that become resolved in this kind of a world that you're envisioning?
Excellent question. Usually, the rule is whenever a family controls its space, they kick out or kill the jihadists. Because the jihadists want to bring a different agenda, a different structure, different rules, different everything. So the family, means the clan, rejects them. The Americans learned it very well in 2006 in a place, in an area named Anbar in Iraq, when they decided that for the good of everybody, they should leave the place and leave it to the local clans to clean the place from the jihadists by giving them the authority. Because if you give them the authority, they take responsibility. If you try to impose, they sit aside, you deal with the jihadists. If they take over, they know what to do with the jihadists. And this is what happened. In Yemen, since the clans have no rule over the space, they don't care if some others come and send bombs to the United Nations, to the United States. Once you give them the authority, they will take responsibility. Yes, ma'am.
We recently had a film festival in Rochester, and we had a film of an interview with Ben Gurion. In it, he states he is not a Zionist. My question is, what is a Zionist? If Ben Gurion says he's not a Zionist, what is a Zionist?
If to say that Ben Gurion was a Zionist is just to say that Abraham Lincoln was not an American, more or less. Well, it has to be. I know what the context.
If I may,
Yeah.
the definition of Zionism is the definition of Zionism, regardless of how some may want to use it today. Okay, Zionism is the desire to have a country that's a Jewish country for us to be in. That's Zionism. So how Ben Gurion would be not a Zionist?
If I watch the movie, I'll try to tell you what he meant. No, I again, to say that Ben Gurion was not a Zionist is just like to say that George Washington was not an American.
What was the name? Do you remember the name of the documentary?
Ben Gurion.
Just Ben Gurion?
Brand new image.
To do all this fighting, you need weapons, you need guns and RPGs and bullets. Who are the major arms suppliers that are supplying tons of munitions?
America, Russia, China, North Korea, India, France, Britain. Money makes the world.
Gladly supplying all these weapons.
Jobs and money. Unfortunately. Last one.
If the United States were to pull out of Afghanistan, would not the Taliban take over at least major portions of it and reimpose their rule and their type of Islam and reverse all the gains that were made, for example, with regard to women being able to get education and all those things? Would that not inevitably happen if the United States were to pull out anytime soon?
Well, to pull out without leaving behind you functioning entities is totally irresponsible.
Right.
Okay? What has to be done is to start and building from scratch local governments of every group, drawing the borders and defining every one of them on the map. So everybody knows who is who, where is what, where is their jurisdiction and their responsibility. This is what I mean. And for 15 years, the United States and other countries do not do it. And it's never too late. But every day which passes and this process doesn't start, you are late with 1 day. And this what should be the different thinking from out of the box, because so far people try to find somebody with a asa sahriya, I was saying in English, with a magic wand, who will turn them all into brothers and sisters. It doesn't work. You have to start thinking from out of the box and establishing new entities based on homogeneous parts of the society rather than heterogeneous as it is. And this is what should have been done. And unfortunately, the advisor of Richard Holbrooke refused even to read the paper, which I suggested for free.
Okay, we have to.
Thank you so much.
I want to. First of all, thank you for coming, all of you. Come again. Now you know why I wanted him here.
Let me add one sentence.
Go.
Unfortunately, too many people think and say that Israel is source of all evil in the Middle East. Is a source of all evil. Because there is no peace between Israel and the Palestinians, all the others are killing each other. Okay? This is a bad joke. A sad joke. Even if Israel evaporates, no Israel at all. Show me one problem which will be solved. Okay? So this is unfortunately what the media disseminates. Peace in the Middle East. If you Google peace in the Middle East, it's always about Israel and the Palestinians. The Middle East, so many problems there in the Middle East. Only one is about Israel. Many others, dozens of others. So this is why I think what we have to carry in mind, that Israel is not the problem for the Middle East. The Middle East is the problem for the Middle East. Thank you so much.